I was looking through old files when I found old photos and videos I took when I was in Bali for my first ever solo trip back in 2019. Like a lot of people, I've been looking forward to the day that we can travel for leisure the way it was back then. But for now, I decided to make this video just to relive some of the moments. So, back in 2019, to celebrate my 21st birthday, I decided to do something different. I've always been a very paranoid and very anxious person in general, so I decided to challenge myself and go on a solo trip. So to go there all by myself was really something that I never imagined I would do, but I wanted to prove for myself that I'm an adult and I am capable of achieving something. And also I was feeling very burnt out at work, so I really needed this trip. Anyway, it was an early morning flight, and as soon as I reached the airport, I was greeted with my first problem in Bali. There was a miscommunication with the driver that I hired beforehand. They were supposed to drive me to my hostel in Ubud, but they thought that I was booking for the service from Ubud to the airport, so they were waiting at my hostel while I was at the airport waiting for them to pick me up. So that was a really great start of the trip. I was like panicking and nervous the entire time, and I ended up going with a random driver that I met outside the airport. He was just loitering around looking for passengers. So I didn't know how trustworthy this guy is. The driver that I hired beforehand was actually recommended by several of my colleagues, so I know that at least they're legit and credible. But this guy was just some random guy I met at the airport. But fast forward a few hours later, I arrived at my destination safely, and I did pay an insane rate, but at that point I didn't care because I was just glad that I'm like alive and safe. When I reached the hostel, they had yet to finish cleaning my bunk, so I just left my backpack there and I explored the area to find a place to eat. I was starving and I found this little cozy place. I had a few hours to kill after my lunch, so I continued to explore the area, and I went to this little art market and I walked around, and then it was time for me to attend a cooking class that I signed up for on Airbnb. And that was pretty much the only thing I have in my day one itinerary. I went there really not having anything much planned. I was thinking of going to a nearby yoga center and just do some meditation, yoga, and just relax, since the objective of me going there is really just to unwind from my burnout at work and just relax and be more spontaneous for once in my life. It was such a fun class. I was the only solo person there. Everyone else had their friends and partners with them attending the cooking class together, but the hosts were really nice, and especially upon knowing that I am Indonesian, we cooked a lot of recipes from scratch and the food was phenomenal. We got to bring home the recipe, but I tried to recreate some of the dishes that I really loved from the class. I cannot I couldn't even come close to it because a lot of the spices just aren't readily available at where I stay. It was then night times, and I was so glad that the day is finally over. It was still quite early and none of the other hostel mates were there, but I wanted to turn in early, so I washed up and slept right away after a long day. The next morning was when I turned 21. It was my birthday, and this is just another instance that proved how awkward of a person I am. I went to the gathering area of the hostel where we have breakfast. I was never good at meeting new people, so that was another challenge I hope to overcome in this trip. So I greeted the strangers there, and suddenly the hostel owner came out with candles and sang happy birthday. And I was so confused because I didn't recall ever stating my birthday in the booking app. So I wondered, how did he know it's my birthday? But it turned out he was actually celebrating the other hostel mate's birthday. There were two of them having the same birthday as me. And at that point, I could have just casually said, hey, it's my birthday too. What a coincidence that three of us out of 8 person in this hostel. It's a very small hostel. It's like 8 bed kind of place. So 3 out of 8 having the same birthday. So how cool is that? I could have just said something like that casually and it will not even be a thing, but the socially awkward and anxious me just decided not to say anything and just keep quiet while people were singing happy birthday. I even went to celebrate one of the girls' birthday later on. She was like looking for a cake and we went to a cafe and got her a cake and I didn't say anything the whole day. It didn't bother me that no one knew it was my birthday because my birthday was never really, a huge thing for me, but I just find it funny and ridiculous how awkward I was in hindsight. I got to meet an amazing group of people at the hostel, and for that, I'm just so thankful. We decided to regroup later that evening for a walk at a trail nearby after doing our own individual things. I went to get food. I'm just always eating on this trip. While everyone was away, I took the chance to film the hostel, and I must say that I really love this place. The design was modern, yet still has a touch of that traditional Bali look. And once you go in, very, very nice place. 8 beds in total. And you have the bathroom just right here. It's not very noisy and anything. But you can see there are 2 sinks, which is awesome. And a mirror here, so you don't have to fight because there's only 8 people anyway. So we have 2 toilets. Another one here. And a full-size mirror here. And 2 shower rooms. It's pretty clean. I'm loving it. And I have a pretty messy place. It's very cozy. We have here I really love this place because you can have a blackout curtain here and there's lights there, very personal when you don't want to disturb anyone who's falling asleep. There's a little shelf and hangers. Oh god, these are good. So you can hang your towel, your stuff. And the lockers are the shelves. This is for your bigger backpacks are located down there. So I only bring up important stuff up here. It's pretty great. I just love the overall vibe of this place, and the owners were very friendly. They're like the best. The hostel is called Sunshine Vintage House. I think they did a major renovation last year, so it might look better and it's bigger now. Anyway, I highly recommend this place and I will go back in the future if I have the chance to visit Bali again. We then went for the walk and we stopped by a small hut to watch the sunset while drinking some beer. Of course, I always dreaded sitting down with a bunch of people because I have always been afraid of not knowing what to say or saying some things that were not interesting. I still fear this setting, but I've learned to just embrace my own stories and what I have to offer little by little. I mean, it ended up being less awkward than I thought, and it was a beautiful day and a beautiful sunset. And then we went back. The next day, we decided to go for a day tour that was organized by our kind hostel owner. The first stop was a rice plantation, and the owner was asking me to pose, but I cannot pose for the love of God. I'm just so awkward at posing for photos. I'm not a model, so this is just me trying to look cool. I was lucky that the rice plantation was green and not blobs of mud, which happens after harvest season. Just look at how pretty the view was. We then headed to a coffee plantation. Again, the owner was so enthusiastic in taking my photos, but here I am posing so awkwardly, and they were shouting like, do other poses other than just standing there like a statue. So I tried to move my arms around, but it just looked so awkward. At the coffee plantation, we got complimentary coffee for tasting, and I tasted my first ever kopi luwak, or civet's poop coffee, the most expensive coffee in the world. It's not as disgusting as it sounds though. It just tasted really fatty and buttery with a weird aftertaste. I cannot describe it, but it's it's okay. I'm just not a fan of coffee anyway. The next stop was a temple where people go for their religious ritual. I was really looking forward for this one because backstory, I was having a series of bad luck happening to me at work, and my colleagues were always joking of how I have to go through some religious purification to get rid of the bad juju. And I'm not a superstitious person, but since I was already there, I washed my face with the spring water or the holy water and hope for better days ahead. I don't recall if my days did get better after that cleanse, so I don't know how effective that is. We then had lunch at the very nice windy place, and it sucks that I only have this badly taken photo of that place and I forgot what it's called, because I would really love to go back there and have a meal because the view is great. It was just very windy, it was so nice, and the food was okay. We headed to a waterfall where I bonded with one of the hostel mates over coconut water. We were just watching the others playing at the waterfall while we were just, sipping some coconut water, and we had like a deep talk. And I just find it very interesting that I was able to forge such a connection with a stranger that I just met. The hostel mate decided to go for the Mount Batur sunrise trekking the next morning. I never planned to do it as it is an active volcano, and the volcano next to it just erupted a few days ago while I was in Bali. But I was feeling adventurous after knowing my hostel mates and being super spontaneous with everything, so I decided to join them. I regretted my decision like soon after reaching the second half of the mountain. I was out of breath, my legs were giving up on me, the trail was just slippery and rocks everywhere. Obviously it's you're trekking a mountain, it's not going to be like a smooth journey, I know that, but I didn't expect myself to be so tired so early, and I was just hanging on to whoever for dear life, and I got sort of scammed on the way, but it's another whole story, and this video will just take forever to finish. Anyway, we finally reached the top, and just look at this view. The view was breathtaking. Look at all these photos. I was so thankful to my hostel mates who were so supportive of me despite holding the group back. And we just sat there for a bit as we watched the sunset with such a cool weather, and I just want to be back there right now. Once we're back to civilization, washed up and rested, I went for a massage, a very much needed massage with the hostel mate I talked about earlier. I really enjoyed the trip thanks to her, but sadly it was our last night together as a group, and most of us were parting ways to other parts of Bali for the next stop in our trip. And then I headed to buy a bus ticket to Sanur, which is another part in Bali, for my last night. I booked a fancier boutique hotel for my last night just in case I needed a break from feeling overwhelmed after so much social interaction after 4 nights in the hostel. It was just a reward for myself, and I booked that before the trip. It turned out I got to meet very lovely people who made my first solo trip a very enjoyable one despite the rough start. I had a nice lunch at this empty cafe near the beach upon arrival, as my room was not ready when I arrived at the hotel. Then I took a walk along the beach just so that I experienced the beach life in Bali, because I felt that people always associate Bali with the beaches and the whole night scene, but I just went to Bali and spent like most of my time in Ubud, which is more of a the yogis heaven, the kind of chill area, in the mid of Bali instead of in the middle of Bali, instead of the coastal side. So here I am just strolling. The hotel I stayed at was very pretty and artsy. Here is the room tour. And I must say, I'm loving this place so much. There's a rain shower, which I'm looking forward to. And me again. These little things which are prepared quite cute. Prepare your... It's not auto-focusing because this is a very bad camera, but it basically says prepare your cat before it rains. My life isn't perfect, but my hair is. Oh, I think this is plastic bag. Yeah, it's plastic sanitary bag. You have this little soap and hair dryer. Toilet gets 10 out of 10 from me. Look at this amazing floor and reach for it. Look at these artworks. Okay, and we have this very huge bed meant for 2 people, but I'm just wasting my money. We have a TV here, this here, and then another artwork here, and then this little study space thingy. And then because I'm on the first floor, so there's actually nothing to this thing, it's just like that. A little balcony which you're not meant to air your laundry here. And then we have that, more balcony space. We have this little place where I put my stuff, and then yeah, very nice space. For my last night, I really didn't intend to do anything else, but I did go for a swim and watch the sunset from the pool at the rooftop. It was really pretty, and the pool was empty. Basically, I had it all to myself, and I was just it was the sort of an infinity pool wannabe, but it was still great. I watched the sunset there. I just chilled by the pool for a few hours until nighttime. The next morning, I flew back to Singapore, and that concluded my first and only solo trip so far. It was definitely an experience. I am so glad to have gathered the courage back then to finally do it, because now we don't even know when travel can be as easy as it was back then. It was such an eventful trip. There are so many more things that happened during the trip that I didn't share in this video because I'm worried that this video is getting too long. I had fun looking back at these photos and videos I took, which I had no intention of posting when I took them back then. I just took them for memories, so they're not exactly the best in terms of quality. Some of the videos are shaky as hell and out of focus. So thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you like to see more content from me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.